Maunga in Maori, you're going to learn lots of Maori words today. So Maunga means mountain and Nui means big. So if you say Mt Maunganui, it's actually mountain, big mountain. Is that working down there now?
Yes, it is.
Lovely. Just turn it right up. Would be lovely.
Loud and clear.
There we go. We're all go. All right, so I'm Smitty.
Good morning, Smitty.
All right, so we've just got the busiest port in New Zealand as far as exports go, because we're right at the edge of the kiwi fruit industry. We're going to drive right through that. We're just over the hill from our most predominant dairy area in the country, and we're also going to drive through a big forestry area, so that's why this port is so busy. So yeah, we're in the town of Mt Maunganui, and we're going to take you to Rotorua. Another Maori word. Roto means lake, and Rua means two. So they say it's the second lake that the Maori discovered when they were travelling inland from the coast just up where we're going to go past. So this little town is a lovely little beachside town, and you've turned up here almost at the perfect time that our New Zealand Christmas tree, or the Pahuta Kawa, is all just starting to bloom. So if you see this one right in front of us, you can see it's got all of the white things. Well, very soon they're all going to turn into those red things. So you'll see quite a few of them just starting to bloom now. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks, that entire mountain and that hill over here on our right, you can see it's all starting to turn red up in front of us. We'll drive around the other side of that shortly. So that is the Pahuta Kawa, and we call it our New Zealand Christmas tree. So we're on a little peninsula here. If you look to your right as I go around to the left, you look down there and you see that bush down the end. That's actually an island in the ocean. So that's where the beach is. You've got the harbour on one side and the beach on the other, and a little peninsula which ends at the mount at the end. And you can walk around there. That's about a 4-kilometre walk. Or if you're feeling fit, you can walk up there. It's 232 metres high, and it might take about half an hour depending on your fitness to get up there. We're taking a ride on a V8 motorbike. Those have got 350 Chev motors in them.
Whoa.
So this is called Pilot Bay. A whole lot of the private tours leaving from here, and we're about to drive past some of the most expensive real estate in New Zealand. Now, this is your trip. I've got 2 objectives today. One of them is to make sure that you have the best day of your tour, and the other one is I'm going to set you a challenge that I reckon the lunch you have today is going to be the best buffet you have on your tour as well, and you'll be well sick of buffet. How long have you been on the boat?
8 days.
8 days.
No.
Right, well, you're going to have a lunch today that's going to be
4 days.
6 days. Yeah, so you're going to have a lunch today that is just fantastic.
7 up.
Yeah. So now, temperature, is everybody warm enough?
Yes, please.
Okay. If it gets too warm, too cold, just let me know. If you've got any questions, just let me know. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't, I'll make it up, and you won't know the difference. Is that all right?
Yeah.
And where have we got everyone from? A few Australians?
Aussies, yeah.
Aussies?
Yeah.
Where, anyone else? All Aussies.
All Aussies.
Does that mean we have to talk about cricket? Right, so have a look just up here.
Rugby.
There's on your right hand side, past this brown place, there's a little cottage. And last year, so it's just coming into sight now, this little cottage behind the white fence with that green roof,
Somewhere doesn't want to sell up.
that sold last year for $10.4 million. Obviously land value, because we're right on the waterfront here and the beaches to our right. So you came in this morning between the mountain here as it comes down, and that's another island over the other side where those pine trees are. That's where you came in if you weren't up watching. We do have natural hot water coming through here, so we're about to go around. There's a natural hot pools, and if if you stand on that boat ramp out there, there's actually hot water flowing into the ocean, all on the same sort of seam as you're going to this afternoon in Rotorua, or this morning I should say. Did you all get on the boat? We're in Melbourne.
Yes.
Yeah. See these red trees? See how they're starting to bloom now?
Yeah.
Christmas tree.
Christmas tree, the New Zealand Christmas tree. So that hill by Christmas will be completely red. And we've got the beach. So these are the hot water pools. They're just being renovated. They open up next week, I think. And now we're right onto the beach. Got our local beach and our local surf club here. The flag of that surf club will be flying at half mast. Their chairman died yesterday, so.
Oh.
But so you got cafes and beaches here when people walk up and around the mountains,
Yeah.
where they end up doing their exercise and the coffee afterwards. And the Mt Maunganui beach doesn't look like it. There's been voted one of the top 25 surf beaches in the world. Pretty flat at the moment. And again, if you think about how expensive the real estate is, imagine how expensive that tennis court is. So whereabouts in Australia? Victoria, Melbourne?
Melbourne.
Yeah,
Melbourne.
everyone from Melbourne. You're all neighbours.
Sort of.
Sort of. So which footy team do we barrack for?
Carlton.
Brisbane. Brisbane.
Storm.
Brisbane.
Yeah.
No comment.
Storm's a league team, isn't it? Not AFL.
NRL.
NRL. Yeah. Well, you don't follow the AFL. The aerial ping pong. So you look at some of these houses down here. Just there's a lot of wealth comes down to here. So anywhere in the ocean, little peninsula in front of us here on the left-hand side. And there's a blowhole at the end of that if you wanted to walk out to there. And that island over there is the one that I pointed out as we were driving down before, out in the ocean. So this coastline goes for 96 kilometres down here, all the way down to Whakatane. Where were you yesterday? Napier or Wellington or?
Auckland.
Auckland. Oh, you come down that way. And where tomorrow?
Napier.
Napier. Okay, so when you come out tonight, you're going to be coming down this coast here. And there's one island just out here. It's called Mautiti Island. You'll go on the other side of that. And then after you've gone past that, on the left-hand side of the boat, so what's that? The port. You will see White Island, or Whakari White Island, which is the live volcano island. If you look down the right-hand side here, you'll see your ship. So that's how close we are from one side to the other. Who's been to New Zealand before?
Me.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have.
Oh, so I had to tell the truth about everything.
Yes.
Yeah? We're in an interesting time. We've just had our election back in October, but it took about 6 weeks to be able to form a government. And so they're in their, only got sworn in last Thursday. So they're in their first week, and it's been a change of government, so they're furiously doing a whole lot of things and changing a whole lot of things.
For the good or...
It depends on what side of the fence you're on, I guess. When I want to buy a new Ford Ranger ute, that's good because they're going to take the $8,000 tax off it.
Yeah, that's all right.
If I want to buy a new electric vehicle, it's bad because they're going to take the $8,000 subsidy off it, which the last government did.
Why would you want to buy an electric car?
Absolutely. See, we're on the same side of the fence on
I
that
think a
one.
lot of people
Yeah.
on the same side.
Yeah.
Oh.
So So we're just building a path all the way along with this beach here. So they say that'll be finished by Christmas, but those boys are going to have to work hard.
And fast.
Have a look on our right-hand side here, this little blue place. This is what that whole road used to be like, little beach cottages. That little cottage would probably still sell for $6 or $7 million purely for the land.
How high are they allowed to build?
This is as high as they can build here, so 3 stories. The ones that you saw down at the mount are the highest they can build there, and there's actually so we've got a lot of land that mountain has been I'll say gifted back to the Maoris. The Maoris will say it's been given back to them because it was stolen in the first place, but their local tradition, which has become a local law, is that the buildings have to be in the same line of sight as the mountain. So the tallest ones they're at the top, so everything has gone down to 3 stories down to here. But they are, because it's such a popular little peninsula, and we're still only probably 800 metres across to the beach that way, to the harbour. They are increasing the density, but not necessarily going up, but you can have smaller lots that you can build on. So I think the minimum size that you can build a house on is 330 square metres.
I notice a lot of the houses are built from planks, white or grey. Are they hardy flex or?
There will be hardy planks, yes. We just reclad one of ours, and they said do it in wood rather than hardy plank, but so there's still a bit of both. But yes, a lot of hardy plank. When you would have seen some down there with white wrapping, even the great big tall building, that's actually recladding them. And what we had a lot of leaky buildings, leaky houses, and even those big apartments because of the cladding they were putting up in the sort of the late 90s, early 2000s. And you've still got big construction going on to rectify that. And some of that was hardy. Not the hardy plank, but the hardy text or whatever. But they allowed people to build houses without eaves. This type of style is this apartment here. That's a later one, so they won't have any problems. But there's one in front of us just behind that flag as you come past. That's the New Zealand All Black flag for you Australian rugby supporters. That's the only sport we're allowed to talk about today, all right? Rugby. So this house here, you can see it's got no eaves and it's got a cap on the top. And houses like that, these ones over here have been rebuilt because water got inside and they didn't have a cavity on the inside, so they started rotting from the inside out. Some places, like there's an apartment that we just drove past that, I don't know, they probably paid $500,000 for the apartment, and then 10 years later when they had to rectify it, each apartment owner had to pay $800,000 for the repair work.
What?
Yeah. So we're running along the beach now, so now you're coming into a bit more suburbia, and on the left hand side you've sort of got 3 or 4 houses deep, unless you can afford the whole block.
You went on a bus yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went on a bus yesterday and you're going on a bus today.
Where'd you go on the bus yesterday?
Where did we go yesterday? Can you remember? Was it to?
Up in Auckland.
Oh, we went and saw the worms, didn't we? The glowworms.
Glowworms.
We went and saw the glowworms.
Well, today you're going to see a kiwi bird. Guess what? So you've already met the kiwi bloke, that's me. You're going to see a kiwi bird, and at the end of the day we're going to stop and you can see and taste the kiwi fruit.
We still got the pad.
Well, yes, are we going to argue about where the pavlova was invented? Where Farlap came from? Crowded house? The only thing of ours that you've got over there that you can keep is Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
quite often have Australians in the bus, and then a whole lot of Americans, or last week we had people from Wales and everything, and I explained to them that we love giving each other a hard time, and I say it's like two brothers fighting in the backyard, but if someone jumped over the fence, we'd band together and protect each other. So. We love our golf here, so we've got a golf course behind these houses on our right, and if you go about on the other side of that, about another 200 metres, there's another golf course right there. You'll see that on the way back in. There's about 5 golf courses within half an hour's drive of here. Again, I mean, you're out. The further you go away from the mount, the cheaper the houses get. But when you're still close to the beach like this, there wouldn't be anything in here that wouldn't be at least $1.5 million. What's our exchange rate with you guys at the moment? About 92 or something like that?
Yeah, pretty close.
Somewhere around there?
Yep.
So when you come across, did you start on the South Island into Milford Sound?
No, the other way.
Other way, Dunedin?
That's
Then is our last stop,
Yeah.
and then we're going to fjords. Fjord
Onto
Town.
the fjords after that, yeah. But when you get to Dunedin, that's where I grew up.
You've got a beautiful train station here, one night.
That's right.
It was beautiful.
Over the days, they're a school here, and they're all heading into town.
So this is the trouble with this road. If you're going the other way on the way to work in the morning,
They're all on the way to work.
or going back the other way at night time, thankfully we're going the opposite
Houses,
way.
they all moved back out now.
That's what Last I was saying yesterday.
Yeah, going the opposite way, were you?
Yeah,
Right. Going against it.
So, coming back to Solo Road.
Yeah.
they should have ferries running in.
Yeah. Well, when you see, so we're going to cut down here and run along the beach, and then we go onto the motorway, which we could have gone round, but that's also very busy. But yeah, everything's built along the coast, and up until about 6 years ago, the motorway we're about to go onto, or the expressway, wasn't even there. So all of these sort of arterial roads were
Chockers.
shocker. When we first moved here 25 years ago, we built a house further down here. It was 13 k's for me to get to work, and it used to take 45 minutes at the wrong time of the day. Everything you see on the right hand side here is all retirement villages, so there's like in most countries, an ageing population, and so these are what they call a retirement village with a right to occupy, so you can buy your own house, or you can live, if you look through the gates, into an apartment, but you don't actually own it. You only own the right to live there till you pass on, and then you have to sell it back to the business for what you paid for it minus 30%, so no capital gain. But it's a good way to retire, not very good for the children that are waiting for the income afterwards.
You said they should inherit.
That's it.
That's not fun.
Yep. My wife and I have told our children that we're known as skis, S-K-I, spend the kids' inheritance. So we could carry on down this road along the coast for another 20 odd kilometres, but we're going to duck onto the expressway and run down the other side, and you'll see as we head down there where all of the sort of new housing development and everything is down there, and if somebody wants to build their first, or you know, they buy their first home around here, then that's the area where they're going, but still relatively expensive. Worked for a company that had an office in Melbourne, so I've been there a few times and been to the MCG for a few AFL games, but the chap that ran the office made us support Essendon, or the Bombers.
Oh,
I went there when the All Blacks played the Wallabies for the first time ever in Melbourne, and we went to a game, and I think it was a Bombers game. On the Friday night there was 100 and something thousand people there, and then the rugby there was 105,000 people, and we went back again on the Sunday and there was another 80,000 people. I couldn't believe how many people they could get through and change the ground in the middle of it. So this morning we're going to Chipuya, which means hot springs. So we're going into the geothermal valley. There's sort of 3 or 4 parts to that. One's the geothermal geysers that you will see going off. There's the Kiwi house, and there is a Maori village. The Maori village is called a marae, or when they put it on top of a hill it was called a pa, or PA. And the pa site was basically a fort. If you look at that hill over there in front of us, just off to the left, that is an ancient pa site. And you can tell because the hill's been dug out, or there's a terrace at the other end. And so they put their fort up the top there so they can see their enemies coming. And the houses at the bottom of that, and that sort of glass wall up there, is actually now a retirement village for the descendants of that tribe that lived on that hill, so they still own that land. And we'll see another couple of examples of it as we run down the hill, down the road here. Wave, smile. Yeah, no, these ones just take your number plate. So you can set up an account, or you have to go online and pay it afterwards. And if you've got something like 5 days to pay, and if you don't in those 5 days, your $2.50 toll goes to about $8. Or actually just have it on an account. So we're coming into the kiwi fruit country. So 85% of the kiwi fruit that comes out of New Zealand is grown within half an hour of where we are right now, so you can see it behind these fences. Get some better look at it later on. If you weren't aware, it's a vine. We're going to be standing under the vines, or right beside them on the way home, on the back of the kiwi fruit industry, because so many people have, they need the bees to pollinate the kiwi fruit. So if you go up into the hills, the native bush up there, which you will see hopefully in flower this morning, little white flower on the manuka tree. But if you've heard of the brand Comvita, this is all Comvita in behind these hedges up here. growing up in the air, those vines will continue to grow up into there. The fruit is growing on the vines across the canopy. You'll see that this afternoon. And when they're harvested, which will be in about March next year, they then prune all of that, and once it's ready, they drop the vines that are growing up the strings down again, and that's next year's growth. Otherwise, they'd just be growing wild like that. But it's labour intensive and costly, so they only do it on the gold kiwi fruit. So when you see the ones that haven't got it, they're more likely to be the green kiwi fruit. Last week there was 3 lots of roadworks, so we'll have a wee sweep on whether we can get through all 3 of them without having to stop.
So things haven't changed.
Yeah. There's 5.5 million people in New Zealand. We've got 35 million sheep, 10 million cows, and 100 million road cones. In actual fact, the work that's being done on this road, where you're going tomorrow, depending on the tour you go on, if you go out into the country, you'll still see the remnants of the cyclone that came through early in the year. And in Napier, around that area, there was 11 people killed in total out of that cyclone, which is just unheard of for New Zealand. And 9 of them were down in that Napier region. So as we drive, it's only a sort of a 3-hour drive from here, and we were right on the edge of it. So a lot of the roadworks that are being done are actually still rectifying that. But if you go down into the back of Napier out through what they call the Esk Valley, there's still houses that are completely under silt. So the river came through and the silt was up to 7 or 8 feet deep. Chose to do whitewater rafting off the ship today. This is where they'll be coming. Look to your left there now. So this is the edge of Lake Rotorua. Very popular lake for holiday cottages, or batches as they're called up here.
And zip lines on the right.
And out in the main part of the lake, trout fishing and water sports, water skiing. Come over here. So you can see the buildings over there, the red and yellow buildings. That is the modern version of what you're going to see shortly. So all of the local people from this area, the Marae is their meeting place where they'll have all of their busy meetings, their weddings, funerals, important discussions. We have Lake Rotorua. That's the second biggest lake in the North Island. Biggest one being Lake Taupo, which is about another hour's drive in front of us. The island that you see in the middle is what they call tapu, T-A-P-U, and that's sacred, so no one's allowed to land on that other than the local iwi or the local tribe. Rotorua itself has a population of about 65,000 people, and it's grown mainly off the back of the forestry industry and tourism. And we'll see some of the hotels from the early tourism in the 1800s, where there was an attraction called the Pink and White Terraces of Mount Tarawera. And they were silica terraces, and they were bright pink and white, but they were covered up when Mount Tarawera erupted in 1876. So they're no longer, but when you see the geyser this morning, that is a silica terrace, but a much smaller version of what was the pink and white terraces. You can see the township of Rotorua across there. If you look carefully, you can see steam rising because there's parts of the city or the town where steam's actually coming out of the drains and the gutters. Many houses in certain parts of the city actually have steam bores in their front lawn, and the houses are heated through steam. If you look up into here, you can see another marae, and you can see the meeting house at the back. You'll see the carving on the front of it. Trivia quiz, the lake is 42 kilometres around, so what sporting event do you think happens once a year? What's 42 kilometres? A marathon. So it's probably the most popular marathon in New Zealand is the Rotorua Marathon in May every year, travelling in the direction that we are. So it starts in the city and then round the lake in this direction, finishes back in the same spot.
That was the airport.
So we're about 5 minutes away from Tipuia, or the hot springs. We'll pull up out the front of it, and we'll just marshal everyone together, and a guide will be there to welcome us. And they'll give you a wristband to put on, which will get you into the buffet lunch, and we'll get you through the entrance and to the toilets to start with, if anyone needs to go, and then the tour will start. Your guide will take you through the valley, but we'll stick with you as well. If you need anything, you can leave all your bags and everything in the van. They'll be locked up. You don't need to bring your swimming gear for this afternoon. That's about a 5-minute drive from where we're going. Just leave whatever you need in the van, and you'll do the tour, and then finish with your Hungy-inspired lunch. So you'll see areas in the geothermal valley where there is hot water and steam coming through, and the meats that are prepared for you today, the lovely New Zealand lamb and chicken, and the vegetables are all cooked underground with steam. The traditional hungy would be that they would dig a big hole, start a fire and put the stones in the flames and the embers, and heat the stones up and put them in the bottom of the hole, cover it with wet flax mats, then put the baskets of food, which would have been in flax baskets, put that in, cover it again, or tidy up with flax mats, and then cover it with dirt and make sure that there was no steam escaping, and then the heat from underneath would cook the food. Obviously in a big commercial kitchen like you're about to go into, you can't be sticking stuff in the dirt and doing it, but those meats are cooked in baskets that are lowered into the ground, into the steam holes. Just as we come into Tepui, I just want to tell you something about tipping in New Zealand. Tipping is not expected in New Zealand. Of course, it's very much appreciated, but it's certainly not expected. It's not the norm. The one thing about tipping is that people give it at the end of the day. And as I say, I stress it's not expected, but if you feel today that you want to tip, then I personally would prefer you give it to your guide that's taking you around Tepui. My wife and I don't do this for tips. It's our little business. We run another business and we don't need the tips, and the people that are doing your tour are students, or that's their job. And so, as I say, I stress it's not expected, but if you feel like today you are going to tip someone, then give it to your guide that's taking you around Tepui rather than us at the end of it. I mentioned before that there's about 8 lakes of the, not the satellites, but the next set, if we turned left there, there's another 6 lakes up that road there. And one of them is that tapu that I mentioned before, sacred, so there is a lake that nobody can go onto other than the local iwi. And just off to the left we have a big forestry park, which is it's called the Rotorua Redwoods. There's a big stand of redwoods that were planted in the early 1900s, and then a big forestry research plantation up there, and that's been turned into a recreational park that you can mountain bike in. You can bike around it. It's about 56 kilometres around, and it's got downhill mountain biking. If you know anything about mountain biking, they grade the tracks. Grade 1 is a nice casual ride, might be the flat land around the outside, and grade 6 is you end up in an ambulance maybe. So there's a lot. It's a very well known internationally well known mountain biking area just right on our left hand side here. So after your tour and after lunch, we'll head to the Polynesian hot pools. As I say, that's about a 5-minute drive. I'll give you a bit of a rundown on that before we go. Just a couple of tips in there around keeping hydrated. We've got water in the back that we'll give you as you go in, but there's plenty of drinking fountains. But also, if you've got silver jewellery, to make sure you take that off before you go in. There are lockers in there, and towels provided. I see some people have bought your own towels. I'd suggest you use the towels that are provided, because it is a mineral pool. When you get back to your cabin, if you throw your towels in the shower, you'll be remembering it tomorrow morning with the smell of them. And make sure you look after your jewellery, because one of the jobs I've got to do today is see if I can find the onyx stone from an Australian lady that lost it there last week. But as I say, there is jewellery, but if you want us to look after anything, just let us know. If you've got a silver chain, this lady, it'll be where you find out if your husband's a cheapskate, because real gold won't tarnish, but fake gold will.
Zostawisz im, bo to locker tam będzie.
Sides where we're going, so effectively the geothermal valley runs in behind the houses and the trees here, and the people that are running the village are all descendants of the tribe that live there. I'm sure they'll tell you, but half of your entry fee that you've paid today goes to running the school that you'll go through. So there's all the geothermal steam and everything in through here. Now the geyser goes off regularly. It's not like Old Faithful in America that goes off on the hour every hour, but it does go off generally every hour. If we're really lucky, it'll go off right while we're beside it, but don't panic if it doesn't, because it will go off at some stage, and if we're up having lunch, it's actually as good, if not better view. Golf course in front of us is right on that stream, so for any of you that play golf, if you hit your ball into the water hazards on that golf course, you don't go looking for them, because it's boiling water. So I can tell that if you look off to your left when we're coming, the fact of that steam going there now, the geyser's going off right now. So you have a look as we come through there, you will see it spouting. And through there you might not see it exactly, but with that amount of steam it's going off now.
In the middle so you can see, all you can see is the back seat. You can't see anything but the change them in the beginning of that catch.
Alright, so yes, Te Puia, hot springs. What's our man on the bike doing? Too much paperwork to fill out if we did that.
How many points for running over a New Zealander?
Right, so we'll just get out here. I'll...
sorry, no, 55.
And then he can bring you back.
I don't know what the ravens are, but they're what the
Tauranga means good house to
Now we're in the.
You're all designers, eh?
about 6 Tuesdays. Yeah, lots of.
We're just going to get up to the top and then you...
A little bit of a show.
I forgot what the mileage is, but what's the mileage between Auckland and Rotorua?
Auckland and Rotorua,
How long are you looking to drive?
2.5 hours. Are you planning on getting left behind?
No, we're planning to come over and do it by car.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, if you come out of Auckland, it's about once you get, the hardest part's getting out of the middle of Auckland, like any city, and then once you're out in the outskirts of Auckland, Hamilton's an hour, and then pretty much an hour to get across to here, but if you have 2 hours if you did it on the main highway.
Okay, thank you.
And then if you were going straight, you want to go through Hamilton, you can go through Matamata, and that's where Hobbiton, the Lord of the Rings movie set. So in Wellington, you go to the workshop for where all the special effects were made, but the actual film set is, yes.
We're not going to Hobbiton.
They said on TV on one of the getaway shows, they put a new restaurant there, and it's supposed to be famous as the Lord of the Rings.
Yes, the whole thing's is identical.
Yeah.
It's the Green Dragon.
Ah.
And you can walk into the hill and into the little Hobbit house. Yeah.
And you go to the restaurant because it is the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings restaurant.
Yeah.
Missed that last
So these are all of the motels that I was telling you. They're all full of what we call social housing.
Oh, okay.
So if they've all got no vacancy on them, they will be full
Of housing.
on housing. So what's actually happened is you've got people have gone out and bought the old motels. The contract that the government does is they sign a 3-year contract, and at the end of those 3 years they completely refurbish your motel, and your motel's 100% full for those 3 years. So you've got one customer who pays their bill on the 20th of the month, not many staff because you're not cleaning your rooms all the time, and at the end of it you get your motel refurbished. So what you've actually got in that period of time is all of the motels being run down and not being used as motels. Now you've got an accommodation shortage as the tourists come back. And as you'll see in this one just right here, there's a high incidence of fires and all sorts of other things. The city of Rotorua itself has got lots of tourism activities around it, but I find the city itself not very appealing.
Last time I came, someone said you've got to be careful where you walk, because those guys come up from anywhere.
If we go, well, we were going to now, which is basically the end of this road, all of the lakefront. If you walk around the waterfront, you don't go off the path because you can fall through the water, through the crust, and there have been people go knee deep and basically be skinned. And over in sort of that corner over there is the area that I was saying that's got the steam coming out. So even concrete, I don't know if you heard anyone say on those seats, don't sit on the cracks because the steam's coming up through the cracks. So even in the concrete footpaths, you've got steam coming up through the cracks and it's forcing the concrete apart. Nature will always find a way out.
There was a park around here somewhere, and he turned around and said, "Oh, we'll be walking in that park for kids."
That's literally behind that.
Oh, is it?
Behind that glass building.
And he said, because if you do that, it could come up from anywhere. You're pushing your pram or walking through there.
Oh, they've pretty much got it fenced off where it's likely to come now.
Right.
So we're actually driving through the city centre, is that
City
right?
centre, yeah, all the shops and everything are in there. And there's the lake right in front of us. And so you start seeing, remember I said that some of the old original sort of tourist hotels. So this is the old post office and everything, and railway station. That's now the information centre and bus stops. And as we go around this corner here, you'll see some of the old original hotels. And then we're going to drive through the government gardens, and you'll see a condemned, beautiful old hotel. And it's condemned because after our Christchurch earthquakes, we've got new earthquake standards, and the building doesn't meet those standards, so no one's allowed in it. We've got some of the old original hotels here. And this is what they call the government gardens. And you'll be pleased to know that this structure in front of us was donated by the Australian Embassy, and it's made out of Australian hardwood. So this area here is where some of the original hot pools were. And the pools we're going to, the Polynesian hot pools, the story there is that the springs that are on exact spot where you are, there's one pool which I'll point out to you, it's called the Priest Pool. So you've got alkaline water and acidic water. That lady asked me, how do I get to Rotorua when she got off the boat? So they obviously found somewhere. So here's this beautiful old hotel.
Yeah,
There's nothing in it, it's condemned. It's all fenced off because it doesn't meet earthquake standards and it needs strengthening. It's been there for 150 years and nothing's ever happened to it, but that's one of those rules, and so you can see it's all fenced off. I don't know how they'll ever strengthen it, but they're certainly never going to pull it down either because of the beauty of it.
It's heritage listed, I suppose.
Oh, you could pull it down, mate.
So yeah, well, they'd have to go in and put steel beams and all that sort of stuff through it to fix it.
Oh, look, it's all falling apart. 50.
So it's a real shame. It's been a hotel, it's been a nightclub, a museum, a library.
Well, that looks like a mansion.
It does, doesn't it? Looks like an old castle.
Yeah.
And then this building in front of us here is one of the original. It's called the Blue Baths. So that was built in the early 1900s along the lines of a Californian spa. And so you'll see just around the corner where one of the springs, and you'll notice that it's called the Rachel Spring. And the water from the Rachel Spring, you'll see when we get into the hot pools, there's a Rachel pool. So the water from this spring right here is pumped across to those pools.
Is that Rachel Pool named after a certain person?
Yes, it is. Rachel was a beautician, or a lady that came over from America and discovered the healing properties for the skin of the water. So as I said before, the alkaline water. So that water in there. If you want to come for a walk later on, we're just literally in that building over there, and you can have a look at that. It's very deep and blue water, and you can put through there. But Rachel was the lady who said this alkaline water is good for your skin. So for the beauty side of things, and that acidic water, but alkaline, acidic, they're not going to peel your skin off. The acidic water in the priest pool. The story was there was a priest from Tauranga, where we've come from this morning, who had rheumatoid arthritis, and he was carried over here, and then he bathed in the pool every day for 3 months, and then he walked home. So a bit like the boiling mud. So you can see the sort of the landscape over here, and even the water in the park over here. That water's warm, it's not hot. But obviously everything in here, this is all the natural springs. So yeah, the acidic water, you'll see and feel the difference. It's the pool right off round to your right, I'll point it out to you. But that is supposedly good for arthritis and any joint pains. So if you want to feel like a 16-year-old at the end of it, hop in there. If you want to look like a 16-year-old, get in the other stuff. Stop at the kiwi fruit orchard. At a great expense to my retirement fund. Leona's been away and bought some gold and green kiwi fruit for you to taste while we're at the kiwi fruit orchard. Has everyone tasted the gold before?
Yes, I think so.
So the next time you go into somewhere and buy it, it'll probably be exactly in the area where we've been. And when I drop you off at the port, if you look to your right hand side, the big cool store with the yellow frame around the outside is where it all gets marshalled and loaded onto the ships from.
He's just trying his.
Napier is the Art Deco capital of the world.
Yes.
Because there was a major earthquake in 1941, I think it was, that flattened the whole city. And when they rebuilt it, Art Deco was the architectural style of the era. So most of the city was rebuilt in Art Deco style. And in that earthquake, the land rose up to the point where that's now the runway. This whole forest park on our right hand side is all part of our National Forest Research Institute, and so a lot of the trees that were planted over many years were planted in here to see which was the best tree to grow as a production forest. They eventually settled on the white pine, or radiatus, Pinus radiata, and And they settled on that because in New Zealand soils and around this area, with all the soils being volcanic ash, they harvest them around 19 to 25 years. But at the turn of the century, someone also donated all of the redwoods that we're about to see. So, and as I say, there is all sorts of activities. You can cycle around it, and if you go over the hill and cycle around, you actually bike in between two of the other lakes. And a pub on the corner here that serves my favourite beer. So,
As long as it's my favourite, not the pub with no beer. What's that, Dolly? Yellow what? We're going to go for a little walk and have a look now, yeah. It's some kiwi fruit and see how kiwis are growing.
yeah. So, did everyone get to see the kiwi birds?
So, yes.
Second one was in a nice, easy spot. Sometimes they're just walking right along the front. So as we turn into here, if you look to your left, straight ahead of us at the moment, that carving was made in that carving school that you saw. And that would be typical of the entrance to their pa sites or their fort. That they would have the spikes and everything through there and the small entranceway and protect themselves. But that carving was all handmade. We had the young fellow, he would have only been 25 years old, that made it, talking to the group last week. Love your dogs, you can bring them into the right hand side and let them off in there. They can got their own little forest they can run around.
As long as I come back when you call.
No worries about that with our dog, because if they look into the forest and think, well, there's no food in there, I'd have to go back home with them. See a lot of carving as we come into here, right ahead of us there. And you can see the tree walk above us and all the beautiful.
Yeah, that's a good time. They've got their tongues out.
Yeah, that's to scare you.
They're doing the huck of their tongue out. Cheek. Cheek.
That's one of the tour companies. It's called the Cheeky Kiwi.
Yeah.
So there's in excess of 200 kilometres of tracks that you can walk through in here.
Yeah, push you around, girl. Push you around.
You're looking into the redwoods through there.
You've got walking tracks.
Papa, I see Ethan.
Ah.
Walking tracks in a bush.
Ja, back in Warburton again.
A lot of the
Redwoods.
Some of the trees that are planted in here are Australian eucalyptus, and there are quite a few plantations of those, but they use those for pulp and paper because they're so fast growing and regenerating that a lot of those are chopped down and sent to. We've had 2 pulp and paper mills very close to here, obviously associated with the forestry business.
Did they end up closing you down?
No, they're both still going.
They're still going.
Yeah.
Gee. I think they've closed 2 down in Melbourne. Tauranga one, I think it's closed. That's the
I
one
need
good.
them both to be going. They're both good clients of my other business. So. My other business is called the Drug Detection Agency, so we do workplace drug testing. Needless to say, the forestry is a good client.
Shit.
I find you're happy. Yeah, I find you're happy, he says.
We're starting.
What, do I get up behind him?
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Because supposedly there's less tax in the diesel, and it was all intended for the heavy trucks to be paying for the roads, but now it's a very similar price, and you still pay 8 cents a kilometre. It is Singapore. You have to pay for a licence to be able to buy a car, and that licence costs you about $100,000. Then you have to go and buy the car.
Oh, God.
And cars only allowed to be 10 years old, and the licence has to be replaced in 10 years.
Being so close to each other, one would cover the whole lot with just about those. Being so close.
I saw on the news the other night, I think it was in Scotland somewhere, the house had a gas explosion.
Oh.
And and it was in a block of houses like that, and it completely levelled that house, and all the other houses around it were okay.
Rushing the missus be going, where the hell is he? We're all here.
Yeah, oh, trouble again.
You're in trouble again.
It's only the depth that varies.
You go in the doghouse a lot, mate.
Yeah.
You're late again.
Got growled at. Apparently I went through a red light, but I reckon it was only just turned orange.
Yeah, I get that one all the time.
Yeah. Not my fault she didn't follow me. Yeah, I get a performance review when I get home at night.
When these folks get home, though, you must have a lot to talk about that. Oh, this one said this and she this
That's
one said
right.
that, and that happened. Wouldn't be a boring conversation, that's for sure. Between us.
Oh, we lead. So, find out what our student daughter's been up to for the day. Some of the other buses go on tours around into the kiwi fruit orchards and into a Maori Marae or another sort of type of tour, and they go to a hall for a cup of tea and a scone. Our youngest daughter's working in there. Now here's a cutesy little story. To the right, just up here, and you can't see it anymore, there used to be a little photo about right there. Oh, there it is, it's still hanging there. And so that's a photo of a little dog, and if you look to your right just before this sign up here, we look into the bushes right now, there's a little statue of that dog. And so where that photo was, that little dog used to sit there for at least 8 years, every day, and just sit there and watch cars go past. And it was like watching the tennis, his head just going backwards and forwards, and the people that lived across the road tried to go and pet him, but he'd run away. They couldn't feed him, so they'd leave food out for him and he'd eat it. So they built him a little kennel, and he just sat there watching cars. Every time you'd go past, he would be there, until one day he wasn't. And so everybody hopes and assumes that he went away and found his final resting spot in peace. And then the locals built that little statue for him. They come and bring flowers. Used to be able to fly direct to Australia out of this airport here.
Yeah.
Rotorua to, well, I think Sydney might have been the only one, but certainly that was right up until COVID. They haven't restarted it post-COVID. The yours is the wine industry, the kiwi fruit, apples, all relied on backpackers and transient labour. So a lot of that hasn't come back. So the last of the tourists to really come back, that just started to come back now, are the backpackers, or the freedom, call it the freedom travellers. And so even through COVID and the last couple of years, labour has been the biggest issue in a lot of those industries. We just hope when it rains that they feel sorry and they move the gates up a bit. Sometimes we have 3 ships in the year, and you have to drop. You might be in the back ship and you get dropped off at the front of the front ship, and it's raining and you've got to get all the way down. Picking and glowworms, that's on that lake there. They head out and across the lake.
It's alright, it's just something outside.
Thank you.
if you looked on your onto our right hand side is where the first rapid we saw, but if you have a look on the left hand side going out this way, that heads down and there's about 8 or 9 different rapids that the rafts head down there. Bush around here has got a lot of manuka in there, so they're pollinating the kiwi fruit vines and they're making the manuka honey out of those bees. So these vines here will be harvested around about March, April next year. They harvest them when the sugar content gets to the right levels. They get somebody to go in and do a whole lot of sampling. They take the fruit back to the laboratory. Harvested March, April, certainly before Easter. 2 years ago, there was no labour around. They were offering people $90 an hour to work over Easter to get them picked if they were in the end. They still couldn't get people to do it. Alright, any questions on kiwi fruit? You guys call them kiwi fruit over there, eh?
Yes. Yep.
Americans just call them kiwi. This is the bit where I ask, is there any questions out of anything you've seen today? And if I know the answer, I'll tell you, and if I don't, I'll make it up. It's too hard with the Australians because a lot of you have been here before and you actually know the answer, right?
How long is last one to? How long is the life on the?
Well, how long do they live? So there are some up the road that would start. So the industry in New Zealand's sort of really only about 50 years old in the commercial sense, and so there are vines that are 50 years old. Yeah, and they'll keep growing for a while. So they'll be similar to the French grapevine sort of stuff like that. But they're probably the oldest commercial ones in New Zealand are about 50 years old. Over 13 years, we had a big disease go through. It's called PSA. And, you know that name that you learnt of the valley today? PSA was about as long as that, so we call it PSA, so I'm not going to try and repeat it, but it wiped out all the green ended up buying the neighbours, and now that it's all back again, they're doing very nicely. $2 million a hectare to buy an orchard. And then it's marketed overseas under one brand, under one name, which is a cooperative, and that's called Zespri. And you have to buy a license, and it's for the gold, it's $700,000 a hectare. So you bought it for $2 million, and then you pay that $700,000. It's a one-off cost. Sounds a huge amount of money, which it is, but I don't know too many poor, destitute kiwi fruit orchardists. These are the pack houses over here, so there's 40 or 50 of those in the area. I think we might be about right that I'm going to get you there before the rain, but I think it might rain before you leave. I told you I've organised it.
Thank you.
This is how you do this in Australia. Have good, great planning. This motorway's only 5 or 6 years old, and about 12 years ago they knew they were building a big industrial area here. So when they built the motorway, they didn't build that bridge. Do you know why? Because if they had done the bridge when they built the motorway, the government would have had to pay for it. But now the developer has to pay for it. Probably about 3 times the cost it was if they had done it at the same time. And there's another one up here which is an off-ramp to go to the housing development. When you drop 10 or 12,000 people onto the port in one go. We get lots and lots, and they'll go into a fresh paddock that's been, freshly sown in a crop, and they can rip the whole crop out. And lots of wild turkeys that do that as well.
Some of them so dumb, they walk in front of a freeway and you gotta stop them.
Well, we have a
Because they got
bird.
their babies and everything.
We have a bird called the pukeko.
Yeah, he does the same thing.
Very similar to, you've got one over there that's similar, and they're commonly known as the blue smudge.
But these wild ducks are silly, you've got brainless, they walk in front of you. You can't, you've got to stop them. They've got babies with them.
We haven't got those, as my wife calls them, those big hockey birds of yours. Those bin chickens or whatever, the white ones with the big black beaks.
Oh,
You have them in Melbourne, you certainly got them in Sydney and Brisbane and everywhere.
oh, the big chickens.
Yeah. Great big hook on the front.
Yeah. They're everywhere.
And we've got those black and white ones of yours that have got razor blades on there attached to them. Magpies. Yep.
You don't mention that word. No one mentions that word. That's a bad word in the Collingwood.
Yeah, a few years back, I used to work in the fertiliser industry, and you've got a couple of fertiliser companies out of Melbourne and in Tasmania. And then we went down to Geelong, and I think, Geelong was in the final, but something happened and they had to postpone it, play it the next week. Or do they play it the next week if it's a draw or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Well, either way it was, I remember reading in the newspaper that there was a whole lot of people upset that they'd planned their weddings to be the week after grand final week, but all of a sudden it was on the grand final week.
One day.
now. And then in that entire 24 years, when I said that it used to take 45 minutes to get to work, the house we had was right back there. For that whole 24 years, this corridor of road, from one side of town to the other, there's been some bit of roadworks on it, trying to take the pinch points away from all the intersections of the railway line. This is potentially the last one, but each time they build one, it just takes the pinch point to another one. And I'm not exaggerating when I say the entire time there's been something going on. This piece here has been going for 2.5 years. Because as I said before, the busiest port, and there's the railway line that's feeding it. All of that logging traffic.
Now she can't get through. Oh, everybody's got it tonight. We're trying to get to Phillip Island. It's like,
Yeah, I'm from there.
this way from there.
Just woken up.
We're back from Melbourne. What's up?
I think the whole ship's from Melbourne by the sound of it.
Loved.
Oh, you're from Lebanon. Oh, yes, you haven't gone far from the airport, then are you?
Are you from? What suburb do you live
Actually, we come from Carrum Downs. Frankston, Seaford. There we are.
Bridge for.
in? Oh, I did not know they have a railway crossing here. In Melbourne, they have railway crossings.
Oh, yeah, but in Melbourne you have those crazy intersections where you park across the front of the car coming the other way.
Yeah, Melbourne.
Oh, there are not many of those left.
No, they were getting rid of them all.
They're getting
They got
rid
rid
of
of some. Most of them gone. They
And the first time I went in there, what the hell are you doing?
Did they remove some of the?
Yes, they used to be.
Did they? Most of them they got removed in New Zealand.
Most of them, if they're not going to a port or up and down, so there's a line goes all the way up from one end of the country to the other. Then they go into the ports. That's about it. Yeah.
There's some railway crossings in Melbourne.
Oh, they're getting rid of most of those.
In most.
No, they're still going, yeah, they're still working on it. Still blocking off, and you still can't get in there the city. On train, without stopping on train, changing bus to train, train to bus.
Look at all of these Kahuna trees. So
They're
right at the
really
time.
going red now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're Christmas trees.
I saw one in Altona. I saw one. Where is it?
Right. So the next time you watch New Zealand beat Australia in T20 cricket, and you see these lights here. It's called the Bay Oval. So highly likely at some stage you'll see Australia and New Zealand play on the Bay Oval, and you'll say that's exactly where my ship was parked.
They removed one railway where we live. In our suburb. They've got to remove
Because there's the pile of cocaine that we import over there. Or salt, one or the other. So that salt, when you go out of Wellington heading to Christchurch, you will actually go to the top of the South Island, a natural salt farm there. And then it gets brought up to here.
So you run a drug detection agency.
Yes. Yep, we're in Australia as well. TDDA. So I've got the local business around here and across the Waikato.
I think the United Kingdom's like Australia too. I think so. Because it has the same flag.
This building here is the Zespri head office. So that's the marketing organisation for all of the kiwi fruit. Yep.
Keep looking your seat first. Just leave it a second.
We're just going to whip up along and back down so that you come back through the main street of the town.
Where am I here?
It's just there. said you were. I asked you to see if you would be able to see him.
This one here's for sale. You can buy that for. Saying earlier on about the houses wrapped in plastic if you know, from the to be reclaimed. This one here's a motel.
It's wrapped up in plastic.
It's all being reclaimed underneath.
Oh, right.
The lining taken off. Nice Christmas decorations over there.
Yep.
Every year one of those gets stolen somewhere.
Oh,
Someone takes it, see it, the photo in the paper, and they bring it back.
are they actual feathers on the tree?
Which ones are?
On those Christmas trees, look like feathers.
Oh, yeah, no, it'd be just made up there. Leona and I live down this street here, so we can look out and see that the cruise ship's in and get off in the vans.
See, nice and close.
Nice and close, yeah. There's a good name for a pub or a restaurant over there.
Fat cow.
So this is the main street of Mt Maunganui. It runs down there to where the hot pools were that we saw. Very much a holiday destination, little seaside village. Pubs, restaurants, cafes, backpackers, dozens of lady shops, shopping destination even for the locals. The population of Mt Maunganui goes from about 30,000 to 80,000 over the summer. We wouldn't be doing this in the middle of summer coming down at this time of the night. It would be just heaving. I gave you some useless information before about the dog statue. Next piece is that bar right there. Down that alleyway, it's 260 paces to my house. Not that I've ever measured it, of course.
Only when you've had a few.
It's 260 on the way there, might be more on the way home.
Yes, I count too many, it means I've gone too far.
Right. Well, it's dangerous if I decide to walk the long way home and come this way, then you've got to pass a whole lot more bars.
What the business was.
Mm-hmm.
Memorabilia, the old Holden Ute.
It's vapes and hookah.
What was that, sorry?
The shops on those vapes and hookah.
Ah,
Oh,
What's the hookah stand for?
that's a chain. I don't know what it means, but it's just a chain right across the country. You know, they brought vapes allowed vapes to help people stop smoking, and now, like if you had have looked on the way down the street, there's probably about 7 of them in the street. I get a taxi into Tauranga and go, why do you want to do that? Oh, I just want to walk around. Just walk around this piece.
Yeah.
Okay, so just be prepared to grab your ship ID.
Jakby miasteczko, nie?
O,
A tu jakie fajne te.
Yeah.
There's your chipmunks.
Que stay at Quest Apartments.
Pizza
Can stay at
libraries,
Quest
all the
Apartments.
pizzas are named after books. There's the Bible and the Godfather.
That's it. We got there.
What's that, darling? What's wrong? Yeah.
And see what we've got in it.